short and sweet, okay? So we are mourning of the passing of Estelle Williams that happened on Thursday last week. What a legend we have lost in life and to the game. Great sports person on and off the field with a heart of gold, a remarkable lady, always a smile on a beautiful face. I remember her playing her best volleyball for the SP Ladies Volleyball Club amongst lots of young players. Even her own two daughters were sharing the field with her. And she was very competitive with all the youngsters on the court, jumping and sliding all around in the matches. Estelle and Mark, the two words that always rhyme together, were at most of the big matches to come watch, and we were always very happy to see them. Because now we know that we have competent officiators, and they were always happy to help out with officiating. The family, especially the ones we know, Mark, the husband, Jane, Randy, and Dean, the children. For God, nothing shall be impossible. If you as a family can put your trust in God, you will get through anything. While on the ride called life, you have to take the good with the bad. Smile when you are sad. Love what you've got and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. Learn from your mistakes, but never regret. People change, things go wrong, just remember the ride goes on. Yusuf, can you play that video?
Okay. Just give me 1 second. Just start again. Can you hear the sound?
No.
No. Oops. Just a second, sorry. You can't hear the sound.
Do you hear the sound?
Okay, now we're hearing the sound.
Hear the sound? Hear the sound?
Yeah, it's only
Lord, I come to you.
Thank you.
My heart be changed when you flowing from the grace that I found in you. Lord, I've come to know the weaknesses I see in me will be stripped away by the power of your love. Hold me close.
Okay, thank you, Yusuf. This is a short clip about the playing days and how she enjoyed herself as a person all over where she went. Okay, so as we, the Western Cape Volleyball Association, Love you, the Williams family, and we love you as well. Thank you from all the executive members, districts, and clubs in volleyball. Thank you. Thank you, Yusuf.
Thank you, Lut. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Lut.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lut.
Thanks. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so over to this evening. I'm going to just stop sharing your coach.
Okay.
Okay, so we welcome back Coach Boebie to his second presentation of the series. Yeah, he was the presenter in the very first webinar way back now, more than 2 months ago, where he presented together with Top and the Scape. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce Coach now. It's important that we obviously do introduce our presenters and people that are especially new to the field of volleyball to get an understanding of who the first people are that are presenting. So Coach Abubakaar Solomons, affectionately known as Coach Boebie, has a very long and illustrious career as a professional football player and as a professional football coach at the highest level. Coach Boebie is one of the few coaches in South Africa to have won winners' medals for both the PSL league title and the Mabila Golden League whilst coaching Santos and Wits, respectively. He also coached Santos Football Club to victory in 2001 in the Pop Super Bowl as assistant coach, in 2002 in the BP Top 8 as key head coach, and then also in 2003 as the ABSA Cup winners as head coach. He has also coached at Africa at under 20 level. During his playing days, he was known as by the nickname Awesome, Afrikaans word for great, due to his impressive stamina and work rate. Coach Boebie has many honors and coaching highlights, too many to get into at this stage. Do you solve favor and Google Boebie's Abubakaar Solomons to read about the history of this homegrown South African football legend that we have in our midst. Coach Boebie has also published a book called Introduction to High-Level Soccer Coaching, which is available on Amazon. Last but not least, a few people know the fact that Coach Boebie was a volleyball pioneer in the Western Cape in the early 80s. He was captain and player of the very first Western Province volleyball interprovincial team in the company of players such as Lake Paul Parker, Cheslin, Louis, Keith Powell, etc. He played for Black Panthers back in the day, team from Cape Town. And hopefully we can all Coach Boebie back to volleyball. I see coaches also bringing other soccer people into the fold as well and trying to convert them to pick up the sport of volleyball. I see Coach Desiree Alice is also in as well. Welcome, Coach Desiree. So without any further ado, I hand it over to Coach Boebie that's going to talk to us tonight about coaches evaluation and analysis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. You seeing my full screen, Yusuf?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be on board again. I love volleyball, like I love a lot of other sports as well. But particularly volleyball because of the thrill that you get when you play volleyball. You can't explain the type of feeling that you get when you play volleyball, and especially when you've scored a point and you can see how the players huddle together, they're excited, you know, even if they're behind. You were 1 point scored and you can see the excitement, and that is what volleyball brings out in you. The topic that I chose is it's a coach's topic, and I chose it for a reason that, you know, sometimes we don't realize how important the art of coaching is concerned. We mostly focus on subject knowledge a lot of times, but the art of coaching, what you need as a coach, sometimes it's overlooked or it's not focused on. So the art of coaching for me is important, and for me it's more important than the knowledge itself. And this I've experienced over the years, being in the company of great coaches like coaches that Coach Bafana, you know, over the years. Clive Barker was a great motivator, and he got a lot out of the players, more than any other coach, yet he's not a highly technical person. So I learned from that, you know, that coaching is really an art. So I want to go through some of the topics that we look at when we look at coaching and what an instructor look at, you know, so that you as coaches and administrators can maybe look at what you need to learn, what you need to go on. So the coaches evaluation is what the instructors look for, and this is what I basically based my talk on tonight. And what is it that you need to prepare? Okay, so you as a coach obviously need to ask yourself questions. You need to know what is it you need to prepare and how you're going to go about it, and how you need to prepare, and what the players need. So these are things that the instructors look for when they evaluate you as a coach. When you come to coaching courses, when you must do your practical, what you must do your theory, there are certain things that they look for, obviously. And this is taken from the soccer context, but it's general, because coaching for all sport is the same, in my opinion. And there are the skill factors that differentiate. And these are the factors that we look for when we look for the qualities of the coach. And in every category, you have a poor, average, and good maybe column, or you can have 5, 3, and 1, whatever you want to do. But it gives us, the instructors, an indication on each particular topic of what the coach is doing and what they need to do. Okay. So if you look at the top line, the dark blue line is your preparation, the atmosphere you create on the court, the subject knowledge, how you come across the subject knowledge and so on. And then your preparation on paper and so on and so on and so on. And I will come to that again. Then number 4, the coaching influences, how you influence the group, and the didactics that you use. What type of tricks or methods do you use to put your ideas across? And then obviously an evaluation column that we look at. And I'm happy that even through during Ismail's chat that he had with us, he highlighted quite a few things that is important for coaches, especially like punctuality, your dress code, how you present yourself, and all things are important because the players look at you and they get an impression about you already when they see you. So, you know, something that my wife has taught me a long time ago is that when you look at food, you're already eating with your eyes. So if you look at the meal and it looks nice, then 99 times out of 10 is going to taste nice. So the same with looking at a coach. So if you look presentable, if you look good, if you present a good image, then already you have the players on your side. Okay, so when I look at the preparation, it's about planning, it's about designing, it's about what you want to do, okay? And then obviously your training and the execution of your training, those are the things that follow. And then obviously after that, your evaluation, and you look at what you should have done, what you could have done, what you could have done better, what you could have taken out, what you do more of, or what you do less of. So you always evaluate your session or the match as a coach. And then obviously the replanning starts again. So that is a cycle all the time when it comes to training or when it comes to matches. Okay, it's a cycle that you need to conform with. Okay, so preparation is important. And what we look for as instructors is first your preparation on paper, because you must plan your session and it must be done on paper, or like you can do it on a computer, you can do it on your phone. Nowadays you get a lot of apps that you can use. Like I have a lot of training sessions on my phone itself. And luckily for me, I've taught myself to use a computer. I learned to do graphic designing and so on. So I prepare my sessions and I load it on my phone. So at the training, I can look at my phone anytime if I want to change the drill, whatever the case may be. So your preparation on paper is something we look at, which is very, very important. You don't just rock up at training and thinking in your head what you're going to do. Then your court organization, how you lay out your court, how you start, what you do, you know, we look at that. We look at, are you professional enough? Are you statistical? And your explanation to the group of what is going to happen for the day. So we look at how you explain, how long you explain, and all those things, and how you start the session, you know. It's important that you don't talk too long. It's important that you also make sure that the players know what you're going to do and they understand the objective of the session, because every training session has an objective. And I am way past the old habits of having too many objectives in one session. So I focus on one objective or maybe two for the most. And if there's maybe a physical side, then maybe three. But not too much. And we spoke about it the last time. You know, if you do too many things at the same time, the players at the end of the training session don't know what they have learned. So it's almost like mixed masala, you know. You don't know what you're tasting, or mixed fruit. So our training session mustn't be like mixed fruit. You know, so if you close your eyes and you eat mixed fruit, sometimes you won't know what you're tasting. And that's exactly what the players feel if you do too much on one session. But your objective obviously is important. So we look at that. We look at how you use your equipment, okay? Your balls, okay? In most cases, you don't have maybe a lot of balls. Like some of the clubs might be lucky to have a lot of equipment, but we look at how you use your equipment that you do have, you know, and so on. So if you're going to run a session like this, maybe, which is a physical, technical session, how you put out your court before the time, and Ismail has alluded to this, arriving half an hour before the time, or an hour before the time, setting up your court, setting up your session, so when the players arrive, you know, you have your little chat, and then you go into the session. And you divide your team into groups. So we look at how you use your equipment and how you set out your stuff. That is what we look at, and we give you a mark. All this, we give you a mark. We give you a mark so that we can tell you after that where you can improve on. And this is very important for coaches to know where they can improve on, because that is the only way you can improve. South Africans in general don't like to be corrected, you know. They don't like to be told what they're doing wrong. And in that way, they don't learn. So they'd rather stay bad or stay poor, you know, than for somebody to tell them what they're doing wrong or where they can improve. And that is the way to go. So every day you can learn something new. Okay, so the coach obviously setting out a session and so on, it's quite important. And we look at the atmosphere that you create. What type of atmosphere is there? Is it concentration, okay? Are the players focused? Or are they motivated to perform? Or are they just doing the things because you're telling them, or they want to be there, they want to be in the team, so they come to training. So we look at how motivated the players are. Now, as instructors, we look at those things. And that tells us a story of how you create that atmosphere, that motivation, that concentration. And do you have the patience if things are not working? Do you have the patience to correct and to work with the players as it is? And is there enjoyment? You know, even top professionals, you find that even professionals that is playing and earning a lot of money, they still would like to enjoy themselves. So enjoyment is key, and enjoyment is part of the session. So we look at what the players, their body language and so on. Okay, so and that you as a coach must now, if you see something, you got to correct, you got to jump in, you got to intervene, and you got to correct. We look at your knowledge. Obviously, we look at your knowledge and your background, what you have done, where you come from. We look at those things, and it will show on the court or on the field you know, your knowledge base, because we can see from there. Obviously, coaching qualification is important, and I think this is also where we are lacking. We think we've played the game, we think we know enough, but playing and coaching is two separate, completely different things. And I've learned the hard way, because I played professional football for 10 years, and I played under different coaches for various teams, and I thought I knew a lot about football. Until I attended my first coaching course, I realized how little I know. And that is fact. And you will only know this until you go to a coaching course. And after my first coaching course, I thought, now I know football. Until I went to my second coaching course, the second level, I realized, wow, there's far more to teaching, there's far more to coaching than just, you know, having been through it yourself. So experience counts, but not necessarily if the person is very willing to learn and so on. But we look at that also because when we look at your session, it will tell us, you know, what experience you got and how you handle and manage the situation. So obviously what is important also, experience in development, because for us in South Africa, our top coaches, they coach professional teams or they coach seniors. But in reality, if you look at other countries, and especially Europe and the top countries in the world, their best coaches are at the youth. And that is where they need quality coaching. So most of the coaches at the professional level and at the senior level are more managers than coaches. So your coaches you need at the bottom, really, the quality. How I've done this is, I mean, I've been to a coaching course in Holland, and the director of the one area, the one province in Holland, after a few years, Super Sport had an arrangement with Feyenoord, and he was sent to Super Sport to help the coaching. And he coached an under-14 team. Now, a director of coaching in a country like Holland, coming to South Africa to coach an under-14 team, that really gave me a strong message. How the quality that you need at the bottom, because once the players have started their career on the right note, chances are that they will reach their peak. So if you don't bend that tree while it's still small, you know, chances are that that tree won't go straight. It will be too late. Once it's taken the direction, it is too late. So we really need quality coaches at the bottom. So we also look at coaching influences, how you manage your situation, your coaching influences, like your diagnostic ability. How can you analyze? How can you go from one situation to another situation? Do you have that diagnostic ability? Your demonstration obviously is important. As a coach, you need to be able to demonstrate. If you can't demonstrate, then use players to demonstrate, or visuals, or show them videos, whatever they want. But nowadays, the youth are more visual. They're far more visual. Their imagination is not as great like we had in the past. So visuals is very important for them. So demonstrations is better than half an hour's explanation. You know, so especially when it comes to the little ones, that words that you're talking there, you think you're making perfect sense, but you are not. To them, you are not. You know, they might not even know what you're talking about, but they will just say yes. When you ask them, you understand, they will say yes, coach. You know, so that is the fact. Your methodical expertise, we look at how methodical you are in moving up from one program to the other, how you progress. Do you have good progressive loading, what we call? You know, so your methodical expertise, we look at that, we give you a mark. And giving you a mark will tell us what you need to work on, and we can explain to you afterwards what you need to work on or how you need to do it better. And your intervention in a training session, how do you intervene? How do you correct? How do you, your words that you use, your body language, all those factors are important. And how do you control the group? It's important that you keep the group active, keeping them focused, keeping them motivated, because, handling 12 players or 18 players, and in my case, sometimes 30 players, it's not easy. So you need to be organized. You need to be organized, and you need to be focused, and you need to know what you're doing. Because you need to know that each player wants attention. Each player needs attention. So you really have to prepare well, and you have to know what you're doing and learn how to do it. Your monitoring, how do you monitor the training, and what you do by monitoring the training. And obviously when you move on to other exercises, these are important factors. So your coaching influences that you have, we'll look at these things and we discuss this with you. You see, now this has nothing to do with coaching knowledge. This has nothing to do with knowing volleyball. This is the art of coaching. Pedagogy, that is the real thing that is lacking in most of our situations, especially in Africa. We want to have a lot of drills. We go onto YouTube, we go onto internet, we get fancy drills, we get a lot of information, but all that drills, all that information is worthless because you don't have the knack of coaching. You don't have the art of putting a message across. You don't have the diagnostic ability to know this is wrong, this is how you correct it, and this is what I need to move on, and this is what I need to focus on. So these are more important factors than just subject knowledge. Okay, so your attention, focus, and obviously how you handle the group is also key. All right, so we can't have players standing around a lot. You can't have players that is idle, especially when it comes to young players. A lot of players standing on the side doing nothing for long periods, you focusing on a certain topic. And this happens when you're not organized. So we look at your didactics, and that is to do with the methods that you use. Okay, your positioning on the court, your positioning on the field, where you position yourself. If you're coaching a specific aspect, if you're coaching blocking, or if you're coaching receiving from a service, where do you stand? Where do you position yourself? It's important. You as a coach need to intervene early, and you need to intervene quick. So your positioning is key. Maybe in volleyball, it's not so critical because the court is not big, but in soccer, that field is 100 by 70 meters. So if you're going to be in wrong positioning and stuff like that, if you want to correct an aspect, it takes you a minute to get to the area. So it's key. How you position yourself, where you position yourself. Voice projection, ultimately, your voice projection, it's a lot to do with your body language, okay? Your voice projection, how you make it louder, how you make it softer. Calm voice projection when there's problems, when there's trouble, when the team is lagging behind, having a calm voice, calming your players down. These are factors which are key. And these are factors that you need to know as a coach. So this is part of the art of coaching. And when you go to church on a Sunday or you go to mosque, even though the priest or the imam or Maulana is highly educated, if they don't have the art of getting a message across, right, then the audience can become bored. They can sleep. Guys, half an hour sleep in church or in the mosque, and then they wake up again when something happens, or when the collection box come around, whatever the case may be. So your voice projection is key. It's key. And this is an art. And your body language, how you look is important, but also when you talk, the use of your hands, the use of your body, the players must see the urgency in you. Okay? They got to see the urgency in you. You can't stand there like a slapgat guy, your pants hanging on the floor and those type of things. You must look professional. Your body language is key. And when you explain something, they must know when you're serious because they see the difference in your action. Okay? So body language is such a big, important factor. In actual fact, when players come into training, I already look at their body language. And I can already see, Graham don't feel like training today. Yusuf look okay. You know, so you already pick up certain things by just the players arriving at training. You know, do they come, get the balls out, get on the court? No, they go sit there, they chat. Someone's looking up girls, how was it last night, and so on. You know, so that you already pick up, and as a coach, it's key for you to read the body language of your players, okay? Also, confidence, you must display that confidence, because even if you don't know what's happening, even if you don't know how to correct a situation, if you look confident, then the players can get a key from that. So even if you don't know the answer of something, look confident or be confident and say, listen, I don't know, but I'll find out, you know. I'll phone Lut, I'll phone Yusuf because they know more than me about this, and I will come, you know, next week we can work on this. So that is also a sign of confidence. When you admit that you don't know, and we don't like to admit something, and that is where we go wrong. And this is actually very, very, very important. And this is another lesson I learned in Holland, is the art of questioning. Okay? A lot of times when we run a session, when something goes wrong, we just blah, 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 blah. You did this wrong, you did that wrong. You should have done this. But in Holland, they told us, you stop the session and you ask the person, right, that what you did now, was that a good move? Now the person will answer. So why do you think it was a good move? Or why do you think it was not a good move? Okay, could you have done better? And then you ask somebody else, do you agree with him or her? Right? So what you do is you stimulate thinking. And that stimulation of thinking is important because on the court, you want players to think for themselves. But you got to teach them how to think for themselves. And the art of questioning actually helps stimulate your players to think for themselves and to think on the court and to see what is happening and what's going wrong. Also, your assertiveness, how you introduce, how you work on your problem areas that you need to improve on in the court and so on. So assertiveness is something we also look at, which we feel is very important. You see, like this session now, you can see here that it's in the Sports Science Center, and they're working on their body. They're looking at the flexibility and so on. But you see now the others are sitting around and so on. So this is not a problem, but just an example of they could have done something else maybe. Just an example. But as coaches, you must look back, and even your training sessions, if you recorded your training sessions and you looked at, there were a few players standing still for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it's cold or it's raining, you know, and coming back, they could hurt themselves, you know. So these are important factors. This I thought about, it's important to have a tactic board. I mean, I say, and I find this a lot in football. Coaches coach tactics, but they don't have a tactic board. So it's impossible for me as a coach to teach tactics and you don't have a tactic board. So players can't see what you see on the field. And you can't show them these things. And a tactic board is to show them once, especially when it comes to children. Show them once on the board and you see how quickly they'll understand. Especially when it comes to group work. When it comes to you want them to be in certain positions, when a spike is on a number 4 position, You want them to be there. This one must pick up. That one must cover, and so on. You know, these things has to be done, and you can show this on little boards like this, and it's not really expensive. So when we talk to them, and especially like Ismail said a couple of weeks ago, you know, your timeout. You have so little time in order to do such a lot, okay? And then also, if you want to explain a tactic and you don't have a little board to do it, you talk about it, but do the players understand what you are saying? When you say, you should have gone this way, you should have gone that way. Easy just to show them. Easy just to show them. Like a small tactic board like this, for instance, right? Just to show them, you should have moved there, or make a group there, or run this way and that one run that way. So it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing, but it's better understood by the players, okay? And ultimately, you want the players to improve, and your tools and your didactics is important for the players to eventually improve. Then evaluation, obviously we look at, can this coach solve problems? Okay, identifying the problems is one thing, but can this coach solve problems? So we give you a mark on this, okay? And then if you had an objective, we ask, was your objective reached? In other words, you worked on, for instance, attacking. You wanted to run different methods of attacking. It's either there's a short spike, or it's the shoot that you were working on. It's hitting the ball early, or looking at the gaps in opposition. What was your objective for the session? And then we ask ourselves afterwards, have you reached your objective? Okay, so that is very important as a coach, even to evaluate after, when you're going home, you're sitting in the car, you think about your session and you think, have you reached your objective that you had in mind? And you ask yourself, what could you have done better? What could you have done more of? Or what could you have done differently? Okay, so these are all factors that is important. And did learning take place? And the only way you're going to see if learning took place is when they've played their game afterwards. Did it come out in the game? Because in soccer, we, at the last part of our session, how we like the coaches to do is to have a session where the players are more free, where you don't talk too much, but it's your job just to observe. Like in the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the session, you observe what they are doing and then let them play. And in there, you can see whether they've learned what you have taught them. If they have learned the aspect that you worked at the beginning of the session, at the end of the session, you look at, have they grasped what you have learned, and are they doing it? So these are important factors that I feel is important, and obviously other things that you can think of. So you will analyze your own training session. You will look at it, and for me, these are important factors. And then the overall sheet of you as a coach, every aspect will be given a mark. Your training session on the paper, is it poor, is it average, is it good? Your court organization, was it good, was it not good? Because your explanation, did you take long to start the session? Were they organized? Were they focused? Your use of the equipment. So we give you a mark for everything. Your atmosphere that you created. And then when we give you a mark, obviously, then we can see what you must work on or what you're good at. What you're good at. Okay? So then focusing on the things that we need to focus on, and then we'll have a verbal, maybe discussion with the coach and tell the coach, okay, yeah, you see when you did this, this is what you did and that is what happened. And we feel that you can change this a little bit, do it this way or more differently. we feel that your voice projection wasn't good, or we feel that you over excited yourself, you know, in a certain situation. So these are key factors, I think, that is very important, and this will make you a better coach. So more knowledge for me doesn't make you a better coach. Yes, the higher you go, the more you have to equip yourself with complex, with very intricate methods and way of playing and analyzing games and evaluating games. So if you change a few things on what we have discussed, or you improve on certain of these key factors, we think that you can easily become a better coach. And when you become a better coach, the players become better. Because the players can't improve if you don't challenge the players enough. You, with your methods, you with the way that you deal with the players, it's important, because maybe at another time I can do a player evaluation, how we do player evaluation. So to give you an idea of the different aspects, how to evaluate players. Because I think that is the way that we can improve. Because just saying that this player is good, or saying that this coach is good, and I like to ask somebody, when you tell me that this coach is good or this player is good, then I always like to ask, what is he good at? And then the people get stuck, you know? When you ask that question, they get stuck. They don't know what is he good at. And most time in soccer, people say the player is good when he can dribble. And dribbling is one aspect of football, you know? So when we look at a player, or when we look at coaches, the various aspects in the makeup of a coach, in the makeup of a player. And this is key for me. And that is why I thought, you know, to do this, to give a bit of better insight into what should be focused on when we do our coaching. And obviously, Lud and Yusuf and your qualifications, where you have got your methods, but I thought, okay, let me give you from outside and see. Maybe it can be used, maybe it can help, and maybe it can become better. So coaching and sport, it's about planning, it's about doing, it's about the reviewing, and it's about the repeating. And so it goes on and on and on. And it's a never-ending cycle, and you have to evaluate, and you have to organize, and you have to move yourself in situations where you will improve. So for me, repetition is the mother of learning, and the more you repeat quality stuff, the more you repeat things that are important, and the more you repeat important factors on the court, and not only talking about it. You know, for me, that's another problem we have as coaches. And how do I know? Because I've made the same mistake. I made the same mistake of talking a lot about certain factors. But I've realized that I talk less and I do more. So maybe that is something that coaches can learn from, in that talking less and doing more, and that the players do more in the training session. So thank you very much, Yusuf. Thank you very much, Lud, for giving me the opportunity. I enjoyed myself. I hope that I have put something across to you, and just lit a fire inside you that can develop into much further. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Coach Boebie. And yes, it can definitely be used, the information that you've shared with us. I'm sure everyone that's watching this evening are really benefiting from you sharing your knowledge with us. Yeah, when you started talking about mixed masala, I started getting hungry on this, you know, so yeah. Yeah, but also well done on skilling yourself up as well, Coach, in terms of the technical aspects of, you know, what you've learned over the years. And I think that's what we need to do. I think in your first, you also spoke about having a growth mindset, you know, and in all the aspects of what you need to apply as a coach. it's important that you throw yourself in there and not kind of overcome those fears of learning certain things which is maybe outside your comfort zone. Yeah, so very well done. I think I'm sure there will be some comments and probably questions at the end, but we're going to reserve that till later after our second presenter. So thank you again, Coach Boebie. Very well done. Okay, so yes, our second topic this evening is competition analysis and match preparation. Our very own Gadija Jappie will be presenting that. She's very excited to talk to you guys about it. Yeah, but before I hand over to Gadija, I just want to give you a quick background of a very short history of Gadija's very illustrious profile. I mean, she started way back, I still remember there was a Sakos festival that was held in WCVA many years ago, and I think she was 16 years old when she actually made a debut for the then Abasa under the old. Yeah, so let me start off by introducing Gadija. She was born and raised in Port Elizabeth. Started indoor volleyball career in 1990 when she played for Eastern Province. She moved around the country over the years and played for Eastern Province, Western Province, as well as Gauteng. She spent most of her active indoor career playing for Western Province, fortunately for us. From the age of 16, like I mentioned, she made the Abasa team. That was a pre-unification. She represented South Africa in the first unified team in 1993. She also played in the national team from 1993 till 2009. That's a whopping 17 years, consecutive years of playing for the national team. And that's amazing. I think Kashwan has also had, 16 years. So we're looking forward to Kashwan also sharing some of his knowledge with us in future. Represented South Africa in 3 All-Africa Games in 1995, 1999, and 2007. She played in the African Nations Cup, played in the Olympic qualifiers in 2009. She participated in the International Beach Volleyball as a referee at the 2005 FIVB Cape Town Beach Volleyball Open. She also represented South Africa in beach volleyball at the 2013 and 2014 FIVB Open tournaments in KZN and Mangaung. She coached the ladies club teams in Gauteng, Quantum, and Vortex. Then moved back to Western Cape and appointed head coach of Western Province senior ladies team from 2011 onwards. Excuse me. She coached the All-Star Saints ladies team, the team that went on to win the club champs in 2014. She is qualified FIVB International Beach Volleyball coach a couple of years back. She is currently the head coach of the Western Plains ladies team. She's also the current head coach of the South African men's beach volleyball team to play in the Olympic qualifier. She still plays club indoor volleyball as well as beach volleyball very competitively. Any inspiring coaches out there, whenever you get the opportunity to chat to Gadija, perhaps at volleyball tournaments or league matches, do so. She has a wealth of playing and coaching experience nationally and internationally. Don't be shy. She's a very friendly person. She is the real thing, Gadija Jappie. And over to Gadija, who's going to talk to us about competition analysis and match preparation. Shukran, Gadija.
Okay, just give me a sec. You see what I'm doing here? Okay, wait. Yusuf, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, yes.
Okay, wacht net 'n bietjie.
No problem.
Are we good?
Yeah, we could, yeah. I can see your screen. So you can go.
Just give me a minute for some technical glitches here. Okay, here we go. Coach Boebie, thank you so much for that very, very informative session. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's what we as coaches definitely need to hear and think about. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. Mark, to you and the family, once again, my condolences to you and the family, and to Estelle, we miss you already. Thank you so much for your time joining me tonight. I'm going to be talking about competition analysis and match preparation. So I'm just going to go straight into it. I chose this topic because as coaches, we all have our different unique styles and ways of preparing a team for competition or for a match. And we generally know how to physically prepare our teams in our training sessions. And of course, some brilliant insights have been shared and some guidance and ideas have been discussed in previous webinars. And of course, Coach Boebie's just added to that. But I feel that there are certain tactical aspects or processes which is often overlooked even by myself as a coach. And I aim to just touch on these in this webinar. And so before we even take the court for match preparation, when we start drilling and coaching our teams, there's work that needs to be done beforehand in order to best strategize. So I've just put together a couple of aspects that I would like us to kind of look at. This is not the be all and end all. This is just a toolkit that coaches can use to be better prepared holistically. So what we're going to look at tonight is the competition or tournament or even match conditions, the opposition analysis. I'm going to share some stats taking. I think that's really important, but I think that Yusuf will also be presenting a webinar on stats, and that will take us into more detail about that. And then, of course, preparing the team strategy, and then finally preparing the team. So we'll start with competition conditions. What factors do we need to consider, and why is this important? So you can see we have location of the competition. So we need to know before the time, where are we playing, what city, what is the venue like? And these are seemingly peripheral, unimportant issues. You know, usually we get the team, we get the hall, and we start drilling and training. But actually, it is quite key. If you look at places like Durban, for example, I'm going to use Durban as an example because we often play there. And these are often things that we talk about. I'm just going to look into it a little bit deeper. So in Durban, we have humidity. The humidity percentage is higher here than in most places in the country. But in order to best utilize this to our advantage, we have to understand what is humidity. I'm not going to go into the whole physiological aspects and how it affects the body. I'm not a doctor or a sports scientist or anything like that. But what is humidity, and why should we as coaches concern ourselves with this? So basically, humidity is the amount of moisture in the air. And of course, the more moisture in the air, the less oxygen there is available. Already we can start to see where I'm going with how this might affect players. This means that players would often feel hotter while they are playing, they'll feel sweatier, because as we know, the sweat is not able to cool them down in a way that would happen in perhaps drier conditions or lower humidity places. And the process of evaporation of your sweat is now affected. And because the sweat can't evaporate as well, and sweating is the process of cooling your body down, you end up feeling sweaty and sweating more. Through sweating, through all of the sweating, there's essential electrolytes like sodium and magnesium that is lost. And that makes us susceptible to cramping. So that's why we often suffer with cramping in Durban when we play there. There are a couple of things that we can help our players, that we as coaches can suggest and recommend to our players to make things a little bit easier for them. For example, we could suggest they wear long sleeve playing kits, because this will help with the absorption of the sweat away from the skin, allowing for cooling, which will help the players. Also, we need to replenish the lost electrolytes through all of the sweating during a match. I personally like to recommend players drink Rehydrate Sport. Some players take things like Lucozades and Powerades. This will also help. This is really good, but it contains a lot of sugar, and in my opinion, this is not very healthy. So, so now we have all the sweat, we have the moisture in the air. It's obvious that the texture of the ball will be slightly different, be slightly heavier, also a bit more slippery. So this could be a problem for setters. It could cause more handling faults as the ball perhaps slips through the fingers. We can suggest certain solutions. I think one would be to tape the fingers. That is what it would sort of look like. It just helps with the grip on the ball, so avoids the slipping. This picture is the same, it's just a little bit extra. As you can see, there's a lot of tape going on there. But sometimes blockers also tape up like this just to sort of help the fingers, just to give a bit more support. So those are the kind of things that we can suggest, we need to know about, we need to tell our players. In Joburg, again, we have the altitude. Why is this important? Why should we worry about this? At higher altitudes, breathing becomes more difficult for us Cape Townians because we come from sea level, so the air there is thinner. The importance of this fact is that there's less oxygen molecules available in the air, means that we must now breathe deeper or more frequently to get the same amount of oxygen into our lungs as we would at a lower altitude. And because there's less oxygen available in the lungs and heart now has to work harder. Players feel more tired, they feel more sluggish. What does this mean for us if we don't prepare? Perhaps now we'll have to rest players more frequently because they're getting tired quicker. Maybe we have to make early substitutions that we were not expecting or prepared for. Also, because there's less oxygen in the air, it affects the way the ball behaves. It now floats more, it travels a bit further. We have to take these things into account. Perhaps when you're preparing your servers, that they serve from a little bit further back, or they adjust their serve, because if they serve the way that they serve in Cape Town, perhaps the ball will go long because it will travel a bit further. Again, a solution that we can suggest to our players, or that we can do before time to prepare, is I think the best solution for altitude is time. I think if it's possible and you have the time, a day or two before the tournament, to go to Johannesburg to acclimatize. Some athletes train with altitude masks. I mean, if you want to go there, that's cool. It will help. But you could also get your players to cope better in those conditions, maybe by including 1 hour long cardio aerobic sessions, maybe 3 to 4 times a week leading up to the event. This just helps the heart and lungs cope more efficiently when you're at the tournament. And then we look at venue setup. So now we know we're playing in Durban or Joburg, but we also want to know, maybe they have 3 or 4 venues. Where are we going to play? Why is this important and how does this affect us? We have a venue in KZN, for example, UDW. I have a picture here. I'll just show you. This is the venue at UDW, and if you can see, there are windows and quite a lot of natural light that comes through. And at a particular time of the day, it's really bad. Your vision is a bit affected. So when you are playing at that time of the day and you find that this is your situation, you can make decisions like often when the toss happens, the captains will choose to serve. Perhaps the strategy is to choose a side, turn your back to the light. Maybe you'll give you an early edge in the game because that's the so-called better side. Look at roof height of the venue. This is important because our passes will need to be lower. We'll need to practice these things before we go. Floor, what sort of surface are we going to play on? I know there's the venue at Wynberg military base, for example, is not an actual floor. It's just like sort of tiles put together. You can't slide on it. You can't dive. So perhaps a tactic when you play in a venue like that is to serve short on players because they can't dive, or to the left or right, they can't slide and such things. So you need to be aware of that. And then the free zone. This is the area around the court. This is important because we need to know, is there enough space? What obstacles or hazards are there that we need to kind of consider? I know that in some of the venues, they have these net dividers, court dividers, I'm sorry, made of netting. And they just kind of hang loose on the floor there. Sometimes when players go for a ball, they might slip or hurt themselves, so risking injury. I know at Tempe military base, for example, I have a picture of it here. This is the Tempe military base venue in Bloemfontein. This is actually their center court. And already here you can see there are a lot of hazards here. If you look there, the stairs are very close to the venue. We have a pole. Poles from the stands come down almost onto the court. the floor of the stands creates a bit of a roof there. And this is a very small serving zone. So if you're going to be playing here and you have a jump server, for example, they won't be able to jump serve there. So these are important things. Make them practice something else, a float serve, or so this might affect your sort of tactics and so forth. And at this point, I'd just like to, somebody was talking about masala steaks and so on. In my notes here, I have something. It says KFC, so I'll just draw my attention to that. You know, at this point, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the coaching staff and the relationship between the coaches and the managers and so on. You know, often we don't, as coaches, we don't often get involved in things that the managers need to do. You know, they organize the kit. I just spoke about long sleeve tops. If you're not involved in that, if they're not part of the plan, you know, they might get short sleeve tops. If that's not, perhaps that's not what you want, arms will be sweetier. Travel also, where are we staying in relation to the venue? Sometimes we go for a cheaper accommodation or what we think is more ideal, and they book a venue an hour away. Now the players have to be up early, they have to travel a long distance, they get to the venue, maybe they have two responsibilities, maybe they're officiating later on, they play at 8, officiate at 4, or play another match later on in the day. But now it's too far to take them back to get a proper meal, to rest. So players spend all day at the venue. But this makes them tired. This is not ideal conditions. So we have to get involved and talk about these seemingly unimportant things that coaches shouldn't be bothered with, but actually it's very important for the well-being of your players. And so we're stuck in a place where there isn't food for us. So the nearest place is KFC. We eat KFC every day. Some players can't cope with that. It's not the best meal. You know, we also have to prepare better for those kind of things. So we go now into opposition analysis. What do we need to look at here? It's very important that we know what the opposition is doing. We have to analyze the every move. I mean, stats can get quite ingewikkeld, can get very detailed. I'm going to leave that to Yusuf. I'm just going to sort of browse over it, but I have to mention that taking stats and familiarizing yourself with your opposition is key. I mean, you cannot go in blindly and just play your game. You know, like Coach Boebie said, this player is very good. So we just take a good player and hope they're going to be good, you know. But we have to look at, for example, the setters, the main attackers, their blockers, their rotation, the reception and defense. You need to be taking stats on these different disciplines and aspects of the game. I'm going to take you through this a little bit. So I'm sorry if there are non-volleyballers, but we're just going to be sharing some information. So if we look at, for example, the playmakers, what do we look at the setters? We need to look at the speed of the set. Do they play a quick game? Do they set high sets? This is important information when we start to prepare the team. What is the height of the setter? The height of the setter usually influences the speed of the set. They can set better shoots and shorts and such sets. They could also, if they're tall, they could be an extra hitter. They could do the second time attack or dump. Does the setter jump set or not? We have to look at that. Would blockers need to jump with the setter in anticipation of a second time attack or dump? If the setter is short and doesn't jump well, then that's easy. We don't even have to worry about that set. And then we look at set distribution. I have to take stats on this as well. Where does the set go most of the time? When the pass is on. When the pass is on, we mean in the setting zone, up at the net, between position 2 and 3. This is obviously the ideal setting zone. We have to look at what sets are uncomfortable for the setter, what position is she in or he in. We also have to check when the pass is off. So an off pass is perhaps not in the setting zone, it's on or behind the 3-meter line. Where do they mostly sit when they're in the situation? Most setters in this situation, especially in the female game, I know almost always sit outside or back lines. This is easier for them. We can then manipulate that situation. When we look at the attackers, we have to identify the main point scorers. Note here that I didn't say the biggest jumpers or the hardest hitters. because often the most impressive jumper and the hardest hitter is not necessarily the biggest point scorer. So the guy who dumps sometimes, doesn't hit as hard, he could be the one who's actually making your life a bit difficult and quietly winning the match while you are distracted and kept busy with the big guys, the big jumpers. Might serve you well to just give the big hitter his 3 out of 10 impressive hits, but focus on the so-called secondary hitter. But important again, I'm going to reiterate it, take the stats. Don't assume that the biggest jumper and the hardest hitter is the main point scorer. I think you'll be very surprised when you actually go and analyze the data. You'll see that maybe the guy you're focusing on is not the guy at all. But anything that works for you, however you want to take as intricate or as detailed or as simple as you as a coach is comfortable with. This helps in setting up the defense. So, oopsies, I'm having a technical issue. Give me 1 second. Yusuf, I have a circle spinning and spinning and spinning.
Okay.
Can you see my circle spinning there?
I can see it spinning. Yeah, it's like a volleyball.
Okay, just give it a second.
Being hit around there.
Okay.
We can blame ESCOM for this one as well.
You think?
Yeah.
So do I just wait?
Yeah.
Any ID coaches in the house?
Maybe wait. Maybe wait 1 more minute. If it doesn't work, then I'll run the presentation on the side.
Okay.
I don't have you have a video still to come?
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, I'm busy doing something. I'm so sorry. Please be patient.
No, it's not.
All the things I was praying doesn't happen.
It's not your fault. Just blame Microsoft for this one.
Going back in. Can you see all this drama I'm doing here?
Yes, I can. You can see it. Well, it's not drama, but you can see what you're doing.
Okay.
Cool. Yes.
Don't worry about it. It's technology. It's not your fault.
Yes.
No, absolutely, Kassim. Okay.
Well done.
There we go.
There we go.
You're back.
Are we happy? Are we all on the same page? Okay, sorry about
Now we're back to back.
So where were we now? So this is just a very, very basic spreadsheet you can use as a coach. Draw your own things, do your own thing. Here's the outside hitter. You can maybe just take the stats and where they hit most of the time. They're comfortable hits where they score most of their points. In this case, you can see this hitter hits 20% down the line, 70, a very big percentage, cross-court, deep 5, and 10% just in area 4. And then we look at the secondary attackers. I call them secondary attackers. These are not the main point scorers, but they're kind of all over the place, but still effective. This is just another simple stat sheet you can use. Here's the middle blocker. You can just circle the zones or put little dots when you're taking the stats. This particular middle blocker hits the green is successful. You can do your own thing, get creative. The red is maybe picked up or defended. So you can more or less have a look and see however you feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And then swing hitters. Swing hitters are hitters that are also receivers. So they're also in the pass. What do we look for here at the swing hitters? You can look at, does this hitter have a good natural jump? So he can pass and still run in and give a good jump and hit his best angle or his best attack? Or does he rely on his spike preparation? He has to run up from outside the court in order to get a good jump and a good hit. It's probably a good idea to take the stats on these hitters, how and where he hits when he takes the pass compared to when he doesn't and is totally freed up. So that's what you can look at there. Then we move on to blockers. Here we will look at, first of all, what is the strategy or the purpose of the opposition's block? Now, there are 4 main reasons why we block. the reason for the block in volleyball is, number one, it could be their main defense. This means that they go for the ball, they do the stuff block. The strategy is that the ball does not cross the tape. They just go for the ball. The second one is, the second reason could be to slow the speed of the ball down. So that's the reason they block, therefore making it easier to pick up and defend. The third reason is zone blocking or channeling of the block. This means they take out a particular area and force the hit to an area you prefer to defend. And then the fourth reason is intimidation. So what you've got to find out is, or look at is, why do they block? Which one of the four reasons do they use to block? Do they channel? Do they just go for the ball? And so on. Then we look at the middle blockers, their speed, left to right. Do they make it to the wing blockers? Are they slow? Or do they always get there and line themselves up and get a nice high block? We look at middle blockers. Do they have a one-man or two-man block in the middle? Or do they have a two-man block? Generally, they'll pull the outside hitter with them. In this case, then the defense will shift around. If the defense doesn't move, well, then you just have a gap on four available for you to exploit. And then static blockers and zonal blockers, as I spoke about before, zonal blockers will go up and take out a particular area. Static blockers are just blockers that go there, they go straight up, penetrate the space, or try to slow the ball down, whichever their strategy is. In beach volleyball, for example, is a perfect example of zonal blockers. The blockers will show, I don't know if you guys have watched beach volleyball, the blocker at the net will show a sign to show if he's taking line or cross, so which area he's going to be taking out. And then the defense can set up according to this. Because the block, it casts a shadow. You know, there's a certain area, if the block is good, that the ball will not go. So the defenders sit outside of the shadow. Sometimes the middle blockers will do sort of especially in the men's game and international matches, they will do sort of a V block. You know, they go up and open up their arms just to take up as much area as possible, especially on a backline attack. And when the opposing setter is pulled, you know, the setter's job is also to pull the middle blocker. So when this happens and the middle blocker and the wing blockers alone, sometimes they would try to take out more area because now they know that they're alone, they'll take out an area, line or cross. So I have a short video, a very short video, just to show you what I'm talking about. So I want you just to have a look at number 4 is the middle blocker. He would jump with a setter, which means the setter's pulled him now away from the blocker. Number 6 is the blocker we're actually looking at. And the blocker will do a sort of a zonal sort of block. He will try to take out more areas, obviously realize that the middle blocker got stuck and didn't come with him. So this is from the defensive perspective. This is actually not an example. It's actually not a perfect example of a zonal block, but it illustrates it well enough. In this particular instance, this blocker has obviously read the hitter well and made a last-minute decision in the air to open his arms, but it still indicates perfectly what I want to demonstrate with the zonal block. This is from the offensive perspective. You can see it a bit better. Okay. So this was obviously a successful block, which is great. But the negative side of taking out the ball, if he had missed it, his defense would not have known where to cover. You'd have totally messed up the defense because there's no real structure here. Let me just... So this is just a small pic to show a zonal block. So if the blockers are blocking, it casts a shadow, and the defense can line up in the gaps. So if you know that the blockers, this is a tactic, this is a zonal block, they're going to take out a particular area, this is where you can line up your defense. It makes it very clear to the defense. They know where to go. They move out of the shadow of the block, and that's quite easy. And then we look at wing blockers. This would obviously be the outside hitter and the setters, or the utilities. Here we can look at the height of the setter. It's important because this player will be in 3 rotations, will be in front in the attacking zone, 3 rotations. So if the blocker is short, the block is obviously compromised, and we can utilize that to our advantage. This is something that will happen if you have a short blocker. And obviously you can see the ball's already gone past here, so that's easy, just to hit over the block or the short blocker. You don't even have to try to go through that big number 8 brick wall. So that's the blockers, kind of things we can take notes and look at. And then we have the rotation in the lineup. So you can look at things like, do they have a set lineup, or do they sort of change it up? Do they always start the same way? Because we could maybe set up our rotation according to that, depending on who you want opposite who. We identify weak passes. This you can also take stats on. And we can identify the weak rotations. Weak rotations would be perhaps when they've lost a few consecutive points in a particular rotation consistently. You will know this if you take the stats, and you'll know they always struggle in this rotation. Generally, sometimes when the set is moving from position 4, now they've got to try to get to 2, 3. And sometimes when they stack blocking, these are sometimes weaker rotations. And then we can look at reception and defense. Here you want to know how many receivers there are. Are there 2 or 3 or 4? Does it depend on the serve? Like if they have a jump server, do they only have 2? If they have a float server, do they have more? These things also the stats will tell you. Who is the primary receiver? This will be the highest percentage of serves that person would receive. So you will check who takes most of the court, what percentage of court space do they cover. So those are things that you can kind of look at. So now we've analyzed the venues, we know where we're playing, we know what the opposition is doing, we've taken the stats, we've taken the time, we know now what they are all about. Now, as a coaching staff, we have to prepare the team strategy. And with the permission of the host, I'm hoping that this can be a collaborative team strategy that we will work on. So I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm going to hope that Yusuf will be able to open all the mics. If you guys can participate in this, I'm going to give you a scenario, and maybe together we can come up with a strategy based on the information we've received, just to get the brain working, the cogs turning, and so on. So, hypothetically speaking, or like we would say in Cape Town, say maar now, this is the situation. In reception, according to the statistics, we have now identified that the libero takes 80% of service reception, but their success rate on the overhand pass is low. Success rate means that they don't often, on the overhand pass, get the ball to the setter in the preferred setting zone 2 to 3. What can we do about the situation as a strategy? Anybody?
Yeah, I've just asked people to unmute themselves.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully people will come in now and interact.
Can I have a go first? I was last to come in.
Is that Peter? Peter, yes, you can go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll come from the darkness.
Just in terms of strategy, I always tell the guys, first and foremost, try not to serve to the libero, because he's obviously there to pass. So just that it will impact that 80%. Try not to serve on the best passer.
Okay.
So that is generally my approach and my word to the guys. We've been playing, most of the guys have been playing together for years now, so you know more or less who the good passers are. But I would always tell the guys, the first thing is try not to serve to their designated passer. And in most cases, it is the libero, because that's why he's there.
But
Okay, good.
does he have a weak point in handling the overhand pass?
Yeah, can't get it to the setter successfully. Yeah.
And we pepper him with that.
Serve high.
Yeah, serve high, serve deep.
Well
Make
done.
him pepper him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first scenario. Very well done. Yes, one of the strategies here is to serve deep high balls to force the weak overhand pass, especially if the libero takes up a lot of the space on the court. This will pull the setter out of the setting zone, And as we discussed before, the setters will more often than not, when they're uncomfortable, go outside, go to the outside or the back line. This is an opportunity for us to preempt where the set will go and then to better prepare the defense. The next scenario is we've identified that their main hitter, their main point scorer, hits 70% of their balls deep cross court. What do we do about that?
Yeah, can I just say, is he hitting from the outside?
He's hitting from 4, yeah, outside
Hitting
hitter.
from 4, yeah. Okay, you have to stack your blocks there.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
Or force him to go down the line.
Yeah.
And his success rate, what is his success rate in the 70% that he hits cross court?
70%, he's got a big success rate, deep cross.
Yeah, but my question is this telling us that he hits cross court 70% of the time, or is it
It's his
half his
success
hit
rate. It's
is
his
70%?
success rate,
Woo.
yeah.
You.
He's a good hitter. Boebie, this is a good player.
We're gonna work
So in
hard
that
out.
case-
He's
Anyway,
left-handed.
look,
I
that's
would say,
great. I mean,
Gadija, I would say, serve to his side. Serve to the side that he is, so that he can be sort of engaged in trying to get the ball and not focus on the spike.
Boebie, you are ahead of your times. You are ahead of your times. That comes next. Well done. So yes, that's absolutely. So two things we can do here. We can block cross court and just force him to hit his less comfortable shot, or we can just, depending on the strength of our blockers, we can just or our defense. If we have really good defense on the bearer, we can channel his hit. We can give him 70% and just put our best attacker there. Otherwise, we can just make a best angle. The next one is, this is a swing hitter, which means he also receives the ball, but he doesn't have a good natural jump. He needs a spike preparation. Boebie, what can we do there?
I think
I think it was asked Desiree what she will do there.
I'd like to contribute, but I like the presentation, but I have no idea.
I'm sorry. For the entertainment is.
Yeah.
No.
I think serve short.
Same now.
Same one now, yeah. Same one now. The swing hitter doesn't have a natural jump. Okay, what we can do is exactly what Boebie said. If they need a spike preparation and they've put him in the past, he's a swing hitter. We serve on him in that rotation all the time, thus minimizing his effectiveness as a hitter.
Make him
That's
work
really
it.
what we want to do. So well done, Boebie.
Well
And
done,
then just the
Boebie.
last one. I don't want to take up too much time. We can have a lot of scenarios here. But let's say the middle blockers are slow to position number 4. They get to number 2 quite effectively, but they don't get to position number 4 quickly. That's a simple one, Desiree. That one's for you. Pass.
Is it our number 4? Is it our position 4? Yeah?
I'll pause that because it's not our position number 4.
Very good job. So yeah, their middle blocker slow to position number 4.
Okay.
Okay, set a quick ball that way.
Yeah. So that's fine. Yeah, we just maximize our play on the utility hitter.
Yeah.
And maybe just a cross-court hit because now they have one blocker. Unless you have a zonal blocker like that guy we saw in the video. That's great. Well done, everybody. Thank you so much. So now we just continue with the last part. Now we've got the strategy. We know what they do. We've counted in our minds. We've worked up our strategy. And now we need to prepare our team. If you're already at the competition and your team is already selected, your team is your team, then you will select your players who will perhaps start for you, your starting 6. If you haven't yet made the selection, like with our NVL tournaments, we have a squad of 18 players and every weekend we have to select a team depending on who we play. It would be useful for you. Obviously, it's imperative actually to do a good player selection based on the strategy you've now just adopted for the opposition that you have. So choose players for the match you're going to be playing so they can execute the plan. So we select for this particular match. And then the other thing is after that, we need to communicate the plan. We need to communicate what it is that we're going to be doing as a coaching staff. We need to sit with the players. We need to communicate the plan. We also need to communicate our expectations to the team and the individuals based on the plan. We need to be specific. We need to be clear. And I was just, Boebie was just talking about these tactic boards and so on. So if you have the time and you can drill and train the plan, that's great. Repetition is key. Coach Boebie was saying, we just do it over and over again until we got it down packed. If we don't have the luxury of having training sessions before and we're already at the venue, I mean, we're already in the town where we're playing, and it's a match that we're preparing for, I think a proper full-on discussion in the hotel or the night before at the venue, whatever the situation may be, where we discuss the plan and the expectations. And then lastly, as a coach, I think it's important that we are flexible. We've got the plan, we've got the drill, we've spoken to the players, we know what to expect from each player. And sometimes coaches, we as coaches are rigid in our plans, the way we want things to go. And in this, sometimes we take away from a player's flair and creativity. I mean, there has to be a discipline to follow the plan, but players also sometimes do have a flair, creativity that we can't plan for. You know, this will come through in the BMT. So if the opportunity presents itself, maybe your plan's not going so well, and the players say to you, "I got it." You know, you'll know when that opportunity presents itself. Let the players do their special thing. You know, that's when the BMT and the creativity of the player or the team comes through. And that's often where we see the magic. So that's me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay. Also, for me, what is very important is that I scout the opposition. Me and my players. I feel my players my setter must know exactly what's that. Their setter is going to do in which situation, as well as all the other players. What I normally do is, while we're at the tournament, I give my players homework. I would tell my middle blocker, for tonight's meeting, I want you to know everything that number 2 and 3 middle blocker does in which situation. So that's more preparation for the team. If they know the opposition inside out, it's going to make their preparation far better. That's just the way I do it.
Yeah, that's great. And that's like taking the stats, and however you feel comfortable. If you feel that you're giving your players a stat sheet, or you're letting them just observe the opposition and come back with the information, that's great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Just a comment. May I?
Sure, you can go ahead, Ismail.
Thank you. Yeah, no, just and I did put it in the chat, the issue of us using players in the past to do the scouting. It teaches them a life skill, and that is critical thinking. Look at what your opposition is doing, and how we're going to counter the opposition. So you're teaching a life skill, which is part of our 21st century skills development. Just a comment.
Yeah, no,
Thanks for that comment. Yeah, thank you very much, Shukran, Gadija. Really well done. I think it was very informative this evening. There's quite a bit of interaction, you know, I think probably more than ever before, interaction on the chat tonight as well, which is very encouraging to see. I think there's a few questions in between as well. I think I'll mean posted two questions, one to Coach Boebie and one to yourself, Gadija. So I'll just maybe you should just open up your mic there and actually answer the question yourself, so everyone can hear.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to both presenters. Awesome stuff. It's basically, I actually wanted Coach Boebie to throw in his answer there, because I know we are tight for time. Yeah. So it is, but it's basically to do with, from time to time we have these sort of players who tend to lose focus and try to influence a fellow player to get them to giggle or whatever it is. So how, in his opinion, I wanted to know how would he deal with a player like that?
I think what I would do is I'll first talk to the group and I'll talk to him privately. I think it's important to talk to players privately, and I think I was one of the coaches that was guilty of trying to solve everything in front of everybody. you know. And what I learned later in life is better to talk privately to certain individuals. And you can ask him, why are you doing that? Or ask her, why is she doing that? You know, and what is the reason? And explain what it does, you know, privately. And then obviously you have to monitor. And if it doesn't improve, then you got to do it in front of others. And if it doesn't improve, then I think put the player off the court for a couple of minutes, like you do in a match, where you give them a yellow card or whatever the case may be. But you have to take certain steps, you know, to get to the point where you make the understanding. So I think a private talk is much better than trying to show the player up in front of everybody, because you know how the youngsters are today. They can't take criticism, and when you give them criticism, they go behind your back and influence others even more. So try to win the player on your side. I think that is important. Try to win the players on your side. What I do nowadays, I look for who are the leaders in the group, and I get those leaders on my side. Once I got the leaders on my side, then I got them. Then I got all of them. That is my tactics that I would use.
Can I add to that comment?
Sure, Ishmael.
I just want to say the importance of your management team, coach, your manager, if you have an assistant coach, because if the team is working together as a management group, when you have that kind of ill discipline, you probably get your manager to look at having some of those conversations, or your assistant coach. Sometimes happens in a timeout where you're appointing your assistant coach or your manager to talk to a specific player while you deal with the rest of the. So the strength of the management team becomes important, because that strengthens the coach's position.
Well done.
Thank you.
No, yeah.
Your other
Yes,
question?
Gadija, it's actually on your first part of the presentation around venues, you know, match conditions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how would you deal with the situation? And you know, we know sometimes the situations we are faced with venues and you know, weather conditions and stuff like that across the country. So how would you sort of prep your players when you arrive at a venue, specifically maybe the inside of the venue, the weather conditions, it's freezing, or specifically, you know, our issues with slippery courts and stuff like that. How would you try and prepare your players in that situation?
You know, I mean, that's a difficult thing if you don't know it ahead of time. I mean, if you arrive and you are surprised by these things, that's a difficult thing. I think it's important for the coach to get to the venue as soon as possible to assess these things, and hopefully you will have an opportunity to discuss these things before your match. Even just to take your team there, have a feel around the court, have a look at the hazards, have a look at the floor. I mean, you know, we always do small little things that we can do on slippery floor. We'll have a sponge or something that we can make our shoes not stick, or put tape on our shoes. And I mean, this is a real challenge, because we don't have, I mean, I think the best venue floor-wise, surface-wise, is probably the sports school. And that's the only venue, maybe UDW is not so bad. But yeah, it is a challenge. I think being forewarned is forearmed. So to get to the venue and assess it as soon as possible is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah. The other question was around, you know, just stats. Taking again, you know, our challenges when it comes to our technical staff and who we have next to us on our benches or you know, wherever. So in your, do you, I doubt that during the game that you have the time necessarily to take stats yourself. So just advice on who would be the next best person, or who would you involve in assisting with taking stats?
Yeah, I think, look, if you in the game already, this is a whole different kettle of fish. You know, you've got to, sometimes teams do adjust. Of course, they adjust in the middle of a game, and then you have a different sort of tactic you need to approach, you need to take. But that's why I say the cohesion and the collaborative relationship you have with your whole coaching team, your assistant coach, you need to be clear as a coach what it is you want them to look for. has anything changed? And this information must be fed to you all the time on the spot, you know. So I think the communication to your coaching team as to what it is you want them to look for needs to be clear. The manager often also would be sitting in the stands. Maybe you have a medic, maybe you have the men's team, or maybe you have other officials sitting around. I think it has to come from you as to what it is you want from these people, what information you want. I think when Yusuf does his presentation, I mean, you know, the stats can get really intricate, but so valuable. We don't have statisticians here, you know. So.
No, thank you for that.
Can I just say how we do it at football?
Yes, please, Coach.
We, like she said, your staff is very important, so you've got to have a lot of expertise as well. So the coach is normally in the game, and the assistant coach is the one that would really take a look at all of that. We only have one assistant coach. We also have a performance analyst who's up in the stands, and she would try and, you know, send us information, because when you're looking from the higher up, you see better than when you're sitting at the same level. And I think it's important to get the expertise that that is available to be part of your staff. And obviously everybody's got to buy into that because it's important that they share the same vision that you do, as Gadija has said. And I think then that is how we've worked, you know, getting the expertise, etc. in all of those areas. And that is how we've worked. I mean, I'm not able to do everything, so I get the other people around me to also add value, and we have the same vision, and I think that has been key to our success.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks,
Can I come in for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. If you look at the World Championships volleyball, I was watching videos there. Some of those matches, like the American team with Coach Pirelli, who's the coach there. On his bench, he's got about 3 or 4 people, each with taking stats. And at times in the game, he would walk over to them and they will give him information all the time, so that he can change things. Okay, we don't have that luxury, but we can maybe have 2 or 3 people on the bench just doing stats for us. I'm sure it will improve our game a lot.
Yeah.
And then also to have one person in the stand to watch the opposition, you know, so that we can get more information that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm obviously mindful of time here as well. I think stats is quite a vast topic. Like Mark said, if we get the international setups, you know, if you just look at any team, they have normally like 9 to 10 staff, you know, just helping out in all various aspects of the sport. And I think it's also maybe an opportunity for ourselves to maybe bring more people into the team setup to, you know, and skill them up in various aspects of the sport. Because we're kind of just stuck in the mindset of, okay, so it's a head coach and an assistant coach, but we kind of neglect all the other aspects where we can actually bring people on board to kind of, you know, get into those areas of the sport, especially statistics as well, which is a very important aspect of volleyball and any other sport. I mean, I like the fact that this evening's topics, you know, talked a lot about generic aspects of sport. Gadija's topic also, you know, touched on generic aspects, which is quite nice that, you know, people from football or any other sport other than volleyball can actually sit in and actually learn from those things as well. I think this topic also this evening was quite you know, interesting as well in that regard. Yeah. Is there any other quick questions or comments?
Yusuf, I just want to say, I just want to say that we mustn't be scared to even try to use our players, you know, the players that are not involved in the game, so that they can also take stats. Why I'm saying that is they can learn sometimes by taking stats. They can learn more about the game. So if we are short-staffed or whatever, we can try and engage our players to do that. We know it's not going to be very accurate, but I mean, it's better than having nothing. So I feel that, like, players that are not involved in the game for that match, they can also be roped in to do the stats. And I think they can learn by doing these stats. It's just an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's obviously there's in-game stats, and then there's also stats which you can actually do outside of games as well. For example, if you have a video recording of the match, you can do stats afterwards. But it depends on what kind of stats you actually want to. Also, obviously, sometimes actually a lot of the time, in-game stats are actually critical in terms of being fed, like as a head coach, or information, right there and as play actually happens and unfolds. So they can actually make informed decisions in terms of maybe perhaps going to another plan, as far, in terms of how the match actually kind of unfolds. So thank you for that input, Coach. Any other questions and comments? Okay, I think we've gone way over time. It's just a kind of a testimony to the great topics that we presented tonight and the engagement here as well. So just apologies for that, for going over time. So I'm gonna shorten the thank you. I'm just gonna say thank you again to Coach Boebie for availing yourself again and putting in the time and effort to prepare for the presentation, and also Gadija as well, for making your debut this evening, and hopefully this will be the first of many to come, inshallah. So just in terms of next week quickly, so next week we're gonna have a bit of a change to the theme that we've been having up for now. So next week the 26th of August at 7:30, the topic is going to be women in volleyball, conversation with players and officials. Okay, considering obviously it's Women's Month, although we don't always, we don't only the importance of female, to August, but it is the end of August, pretty soon. So we will focus on women in volleyball. We will have a panel of females who will discuss the experiences and challenges around the topic. Okay, our facilitator next week is going to be Elmi Klutze, and our keynote speaker will be none other than Ilan Pranawalt. And the conversation will center around their own experiences as sportswomen, suggestions around growing girls and women's volleyball within the province, and more especially at leadership levels. Okay, so we're looking forward to that. And because it's a topic on women in volleyball, doesn't mean the men must stay away. It's very important for all the men to also attend the topic discussions next week. Sammy, you're laughing there, I see you laughing, but your presence next week is going to be important as well. Because we all need to do this together. So without any further ado, that's the end of this evening session. A very entertaining session this evening. Just before I go, I just wanted to applaud one person here, Andre Hugo. I mean, you must get a medal, because I think you've come in and out of the session tonight about 10 times. Great fun to see Andre Hugo here. Andre Hugo, you must have had some serious technical difficulties on your side this evening, that you had to come in and out all the time. But yeah, well done. It just shows how keen he is in actually joining these webinars. So well done. But everyone else as well, all the coaches that joined across the province, again, thank you for your presence and engagement this evening. It's really appreciated. And let's grow volleyball across the province. Stay well, keep safe, until we meet each other again next week, inshallah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, thank you, dear. Nice presentation.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, they must learn. They must learn. They must learn. Yeah.
Development. It's development.
Development, yeah, youth development. The mothers are the best coaches.